too loud? Dang it. Oh, so hot. I weirdly had a lot of hesitation making this video because my first year at NYU was a mixed bag of things that happened that were cool and things that happened that I do not wish to relive. I think of it more as a painful transformation period because it was my first official year as a kind of adult. That's my branding, a kind of adult. I don't want to call my time at NYU all bad because NYU's been my dream school from the get-go, and a lot of really awesome things happened. I got my first ever job at the NYU bookstore. I was in my first Shakespeare play. We performed in Washington Square Park, which was super cool. And my dramatic writing classes were all amazing, and I had very talented professors who helped me get out of my fear of writing and helped me develop some ideas that I am going to make into concrete projects very soon. The whole experience of moving to New York was, while stressful, also very cool because I got to experience a whole new place that I'd never had before since I've lived in Los Angeles all my life. But I think the whole concept of being on your own for the first time without your friends or family or usual support network and learning how to navigate life on your own, that can be tough for anybody. And I did hit some plateaus and made a lot of mistakes along the way. So I wanted to use this video to reflect on my entire experience at NYU as a whole and also give some little tips for any newcomers because the start of the next semester is coming up very soon. So if you're an incoming freshman, here are a couple things you should know beforehand. Start at the very beginning and talk about welcome week. My welcome week was chaotic to say the least. My original plan was to fly to New York a week before welcome week started so I could have time to get all of my stuff together and just generally say goodbye to my family and adjust to the city. But I was also filming summertime at the same time, and there were a couple things that got mixed up, and they ended up scheduling my filming days the exact days before move-in day. So my family, who was originally going to fly with me to New York, went by themselves while I stayed behind so I could be there to film the movie. So I finish up my filming in the middle of the night, and then I immediately take a red eye, flying by myself, mind you, for the first time ever to New York to move in that very next day. I managed to get at least 5 hours of sleep on the plane. I got to where my mom was staying in the hotel, and then we immediately went to go move into my dorm room, which was a whole ordeal on its own. I didn't know where Washington Square Park was, so I was just walking around like an idiot, going in circles. It was kind of stupid looking back because I made the 5-minute walk to Washington Square Park several times after that. So my mom was just like, oh, you don't have this, this, and this. So we had to walk all the way to Target, all the way to Kmart. All of both stores were super packed because all the students were running around stressed out, but we get everything together and then my family just leaves me there. And because I didn't have much time to get adjusted to everything, I was so overwhelmed with emotion and stress from the whole day that I had probably the biggest panic attack I've ever had in my life. I'm one of those super emotional people that when they start crying, I can't stop. I just gotta ride the wave of emotion until it stops, and sometimes it doesn't stop for a long ass time. Like there's always that one person who's just like, just stop crying, and I'm just like, you can stop? And it's super embarrassing crying in public, so I'm like trying to find these bathrooms to cry in, but they're all full because it's welcome week and all the parents and students are there. So I try to just subtly cry in my dorm's bathroom, but I share it with 4 of the roommates and they need it, so eventually I have to come out. And at this point, I'm just full on bawling and I can't stop. And this is how my roommates met me, mind you. Crying so hard that I could not even speak. I was hyperventilating and I couldn't get in a word in because I was breathing so short and fast. And at this point, it's impossible to make it seem like, oh, I'm okay, it's fine, I'm just going through something, I'm just going and so I just hide under the covers of my bed and just try to nap away my panic attack. And napping did help, but just that whole thing was so embarrassing to go through. So despite that whole emotional, chaotic introduction to NYU, I adjusted quite easily to being in the city and going to classes. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because I got all my nerves and fear out that first night. But I say the story to bring up 2 tips. Number 1, prioritize your mental health when you're in college. You have a personal responsibility to keep yourself emotionally healthy. That means if you take take medication, that you make sure to be consistent with it and don't go long periods without taking it. Utilize NYU's many resources such as their walk-in counseling, because if you are not mentally healthy, everything becomes a billion times harder. There were points in my college experience where I was so depressed I couldn't even get out of bed to go to class, and as a result my grades weren't the best and my professors were constantly emailing me to make sure I was okay, which I wasn't. And also, when you're super depressed, it affects people around you, like your roommates, so make sure you take responsibility for your own mental and emotional and physical health so it won't negatively affect those situations. And number 2, find a space to be alone for any emotional breakdowns. As if you're like me, they might be frequent. While lying down in bed with a blanket over your head is a good place for emergency breakdowns, it can get pretty hot and stuffy in there. If you live in Brittany Hall, my recommendation is the bathroom next to the laundry room, because it's secluded enough that no one goes there that much, and the constant whirring of the washing machines will just drown out your sobs. When it comes to your schoolwork, always go to classes and be on time. Most of the time. I say this not just to be a good student, but also because if you want a career in what you're majoring in, then you should go to your classes, because then you'll learn how to get that career. It's so weird because someone who's used to going to high school at 7 a.m. in the morning could not even take going to 9:30 a.m. classes. So when people say don't take morning classes, believe them. I think the earliest class that I could bear taking was 11 a.m. So just know your limit. And make sure to do all your work. Procrastinating will ruin your life. There were so many moments in school where I was rushing, I was stressed out, I was tired and grumpy, and that was just because I had to stay up all night working on an assignment that I procrastinated on. And if you're majoring in dramatic writing, it's also especially important to get your writing in on time, because the professor will give you a lecture saying that in the real world, a late script is never written, so you gotta make sure to get it in on the appropriate time or no one will hire you in the real world. If you want to get your work done but fall asleep while doing required reading like I do, then I recommend studying out in the open so the judgment of your peers keeps you awake. The library is a great place to study. It's open till 2 a.m. But might I recommend the dining hall? I've spent many a time in the dining hall just sitting down, eating 5 bowls of cereal at a time, getting all my work done. Although that might be dangerous after a while. Side note, I know everybody praises Palladium's brunch on Sundays, which is very good, but might I recommend Downstein breakfast, which is every single day and is just as good, if not a little bit better. They got a waffle iron, they got an omelet bar where you can also get pancakes. It literally was the motivation for me to wake up early for most days in NYU. The thing about Downstein breakfast though is that it ends at 11:30 and then they switch to lunch, so make sure you get there early. Oh, and also if you're printing assignments, do not print 5 minutes before your class is supposed to start, because printers are unreliable. You don't know how many times I've had to run to the Brittany printer only for it to be broken, so I have to run all the way to Downstein and go all the way into the weird corridor and catacombs of their printer to find that it's also broken. Please, for your own sanity, print your early. When it comes to friends, I kind of feel like I had to relearn how to make friends with new people because I was so used to just hanging out with my guillotine gang in high school. On the whole, I think the biggest things that I've learned is to always put yourself out there, because you never know who's going to be a great friend and who's going to be a valuable ally to you. But also, at the end of the day, if something doesn't work out with somebody, it's not a personal thing. It's kind of impossible to be friends with everybody because everybody is so different. You might have an easier time making friends in your major because you guys already have a common interest. But at the end of the day, don't take it personally if a friendship doesn't work out. And also, this might be the most important thing I have ever learned about friendship. Don't chase people, but also don't chase after cool people or who you interpret as like the person with the most clout. Go after who is kind and who is genuine. And also, don't feel discouraged if you haven't found your group yet. As someone who's pretty introverted and socially anxious, it usually takes me a couple of years to find my group of friends, so you really just have to trust the process. I'm only going to touch on roommates very briefly. The whole concept of roommates, taking a bunch of people who came from different sides of the world, put them all together in a very small space and expect them to live together and get along, long while they've been socialized to behave differently. Didn't Jean-Paul Sartre write a whole play about how roommates can be hell? I'm an only child, so I'm used to living on my own, and I've never had roommates, so that was definitely a learning experience, and I made a lot of mistakes, but I think I can relay what I've learned to you guys. Direct communication is the best bet, because if you do not, then you kind of harbor this unspoken animosity, and that can lead to a very ugly, toxic environment. And also, it's best to err on the side of empathy and not to be quick to judgment or antagonization. If you have a problem with a roommate, try to be part of the solution. But if you've compromised, if you've communicated and it still doesn't work out, then it's probably best for you to switch your rooms. This is a situation I've encountered more than once where people have talked to me about how much they don't like their roommates, that they don't want to move because they don't want to go through all the trouble. NYU is a lot better than most colleges in that there's a very short period between switching rooms, so you don't have to wait that long. And where you live is also crucial to your mental health, because if you're living in an environment where there is a lot of bad blood and animosity, then you're not going to feel the best emotionally. So it's very important to try to make sure that you're living in a space that makes you happy and helps your well-being. Here's another tip: take every opportunity. NYU Welcoming has the funnest events. Like, I'm pretty sure that this is where all our tuition money is going into. They have drag bingo, they have Bob Ross paint nights, they have movie nights, comedy performances, open mics, karaoke. So many Broadway legends are there for lectures. It's kind of insane. Take the time to explore the city, go to a Broadway show, hit up the thrift stores. You will find amazing things at the thrift stores. Get out there and experience all of New York while you can, because you never know if you end up in a pandemic and you're forced to leave and everything shuts down indefinitely. This is all to say, I wish I had seen Company. My last little tip is a little bit of a saucy one. It's normal in college if you wish to party a little bit, have a little bit of fun, partake in some beverages or herbs, smoke a little bit of the devil's lettuce. And I'm not saying don't do that. It's fine if you want to do that. But if you do want to party, do not party at Third North. The RAs at Third North are like watchdogs, and they will bust you no matter how loud or quiet you are being. And I'm totally not saying this from personal experience. Twice. Do things only if you really, really want to. Don't do things because you think you have to or you want to be nice. Most people will be like, yeah, I don't want to give you this. I spent like $30 on this bottle. Because you might end up in some regrettable situations if you do things even though you don't want to. And also drink a lot of water. And that's all, most of the things that I wish I knew before going to NYU as a freshman. I know a lot of this won't apply to people this year because of the whole quarantine and lockdown thing, but hopefully in a couple of years this will all apply again. I know there are a lot of people who are going back to New York this summer. I'm going to be staying behind and doing all my classes this semester online just to be safe. I know this might be disappointing for some viewers who watch my videos solely for the NYU vlogs, but sorry, gotta stay safe. But in the meantime, you can enjoy my other content that I make on this channel, which is ranging mostly on DIYs. Just trying to have fun with it. I don't want to take it too seriously. It's super hot outside, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!